Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is June 23rd. Let's talk a little bit about the garden budget, specifically about the way June absolutely destroys it. The nurseries are full, the perennials are tempting, the annuals are irresistible, and somehow you leave with 3 times more than you came for. Anna Pavard, the beloved British garden writer and passionate bulb enthusiast, had something to say about this. In The Curious Gardener, she wrote, "Only fools view their gardens in monetary terms. The real point of a garden is to increase the value of our lives." And gardeners, of course, know exactly what she's talking about. I have a sign in my garden shed that says, "It's not hoarding if it's plants." And I stand by that because my garden is the living, growing, blooming thing that gives back every single day. June is tough on the wallet, but the payback? Extraordinary. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1890 that the Irish-American horticulturist Patrick Barry died in Rochester, New York. He was 74 years old. Patrick was born in 1817 near Belfast, Ireland, the son of a farmer. After working as a school teacher, he immigrated to New York at the age of 20. In 1836, he found work at Prince's Linnaean Nursery in Flushing, Long Island, the most prestigious nursery in America at the time. For 4 years, Patrick learned every aspect of the nursery trade, grafting, budding, and evaluating new plants before they reached the public. In 1840, he moved to Rochester and partnered with the German immigrant George Ellwanger. Together, they established Mount Hope Nursery on 7 acres. Their neighbors called them fools, but by the 1870s, Mount Hope had grown into more than 650 acres to become the largest nursery in the United States. Its catalogs traveled everywhere, helping shape what Americans planted in their gardens and orchards. One of Patrick's greatest contributions was popularizing the dwarf fruit tree. Before then, apple trees often took a decade to bear fruit, and they grew so tall they required enormous ladders for harvest. Patrick promoted trees grafted onto compact rootstocks, trees that fruited in just a few years, fit comfortably into family gardens, and brought orchards down to human size. While helping make orchards smaller, Patrick also played a role in spreading some of the largest trees on Earth. In the 1860s, giant sequoia seeds crossed the continent by Pony Express, packed inside small snuff boxes. At Mount Hope, Patrick raised thousands of sequoia seedlings and then shipped them to Europe, where many were planted on grand estates. In Europe, they were often known as Wellingtonias, named for the Duke of Wellington. Patrick also wrote The Fruit Garden in 1851, a practical guide that became one of America's most influential books on fruit culture. As an editor, author, and horticultural leader, he helped transform Rochester into the city still known today as the Flower City. In January of 1890, after 26 years as president of the Western New York Horticultural Society, Patrick attempted to resign, writing that he was no longer able to perform his duties. But the members refused to accept his resignation. They told him they would keep him as president for as long as he could sign his name. 5 months later, on June 23rd, Patrick Barry died peacefully at his home, surrounded by his family. And it was on this day in 1830 that the botanical artist Anna Frances Walker was born at Rhodes, her family's estate on the Parramatta River at Concord in New South Wales, Australia. Her family called her Annie, and her mother's family, the Blaxlands, were known in the colony as the Roses of Botany Bay. The women in the family all collected and pressed wildflowers, and then they passed their love of plants down to Annie. As a teenager, Annie spent 2 years with her grandmother at Newington, where she studied watercolor painting under Henry Curzon Elport, one of Sydney's finest drawing masters. After her father's death in 1861, Annie returned to Rhodes, where she lived with her 2 sisters for the rest of her life. When she was 43, her watercolors of Tasmanian wildflowers were exhibited in London, and Annie soon became the first Australian woman to receive a gold medal at the international exhibition. In fact, the Prince of Wales himself called her flowers remarkable. 8 years later, Annie traveled to Melbourne to show her paintings to the great botanist Ferdinand von Mueller. After studying them for 2 hours, Mueller declared them the finest collection he had ever seen. Yet, despite his praise, Annie could not find a publisher. Eventually, she paid to publish the first volume herself. Flowers of New South Wales appeared with 10 color plates based on her watercolors. But sadly, the printing was disappointing, and plans for additional volumes never materialized. Undeterred, Annie continued collecting, painting, and sending specimens to Mueller's herbarium. By her 80s, Annie had completed 8 volumes containing more than 1,700 illustrations of the flowers, trees, grasses, berries, and fungi of New South Wales and Tasmania. Yet she was saddened that her work had received so little recognition during her lifetime. And although she felt that praise had come easily early on, meaningful support had never surfaced. In the end, discouraged and weary, Annie sold all 8 volumes of her work to the collector David Scott Mitchell for just £70. She said, "I let it go at the absurd price, being too annoyed and disheartened to trouble any more about the matter." Soon after, Anna Frances Walker died at Rhodes on January 5th in 1913. She was 82 years old. Today, her 8 volumes are preserved in the Mitchell Library at the State Library of New South Wales. And in the margins of her autobiography, Annie left one final reflection. "I am always happy when painting, as I find still some beautiful specimen that I have not seen in my daily walks." In today's Unearthed Words, we hear a poem called The Summer Garden by the Russian poet Anna Akhmatova, born on this day, June 23rd, in 1889. Throughout her life, Anna wrote about memory, loss, and what endures. And in this poem, she remembers the summer garden in St. Petersburg, a place of roses, statues, lime trees, and the luminous nights of the northern summer. During the siege of Leningrad, the garden's marble statues were buried underground to protect them from the bombs. Here's an excerpt from The Summer Garden. "I long for the roses, for that one garden where the finest fence in the world still stands, where the statues remember me young, and I remember them beneath the Neva's water. In the fragrant stillness among the regal lime trees, I imagine I hear the creak of ships' masts, and the swan, as always, sails through the ages, admiring the beauty of his double. And dead to the world sleep hundreds of thousands of footsteps, of enemies and friends and enemies. And the procession of shadows has no end, from the granite vase to the palace door. There my white knights whisper to each other of someone's lofty and secret love. And everything burns with mother of pearl and jasper. Yet the source of light is mysteriously hidden." Whenever I encounter garden statuary, I always think of those statues in Leningrad, just waiting underground, through the long days of the war, just waiting for their return to the light. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, My Summer in a Garden by Charles Dudley Warner. Summer Gardens Week continues, and today's book is one of the funniest garden books ever written. My Summer in a Garden was first published in 1870. It was an instant hit because it offered a week-by-week account of tending a vegetable garden and doing battle with chickens, children, and the neighbor's cow. Charles Dudley Warner was the editor of the Hartford Courant and a friend of both Harriet Beecher Stowe and Mark Twain. Even though My Summer in a Garden was his first book, it sold out within weeks. Mark Twain called it perfectly magnificent, rich, delicious, with every page glittering. But what makes this book endure is that Charles understood something true about gardening. He wrote, "There is life in the ground. It goes into the seeds, and it also, when it is stirred up, goes into the man who stirs it." The hot sun on his back as he bends to shovel and hoe, or contemplatively rakes the warm and fragrant loam, is better than much medicine. And then he also made this observation: "It is a great pleasure to see other people eat grapes." He wrote that after watching a harvest. He was right. My Summer in a Garden by Charles Dudley Warner was out of print for more than a century before being reissued in 2002, and it remains just as fresh today as it was in 1870. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1916 that the British botanist Joyce Lambert was born on the edge of the Norfolk Broads. Joyce grew up near all that flat water and the reed beds and that strange East Anglian light that made the land and sky seem only loosely attached. And for most of her life, the people there believed the Broads were natural, meaning the old lakes and ancient water had always been there and were all just part of the landscape. But then one day in the early 1950s, Joyce went out into the wet ground with an auger, a narrow metal borer that she could twist down into the mud and pull back up full of the earth below. Boring is patient work, wet hands, dark water, a long metal tube, and whatever the ground is willing to give back. But for Joyce, what came up was not just mud. It was memory and story. Layer by layer, the buried ground told Joyce that the land beneath the water had once been cut by hand. The lake was not made by nature, but by people. Centuries earlier, ordinary men and women in Norfolk had dug peat there for fuel, cutting the peat from the soaked earth before loading it into boats, and then using the peat to keep warm. But somehow over time, the water rose and the diggings filled. Then the edges softened, until the old labors of digging peat disappeared altogether under the water, reeds, and silence. By Joyce's lifetime, only the water remained, and no one alive remembered anything about the peat. But the ground remembered, and Joyce was curious enough to see what it would tell her if she had the courage to ask it questions. The story was unexpected and exciting, and Joyce kept taking cores again and again and again. And slowly, the truth began to surface. When Joyce finally published her findings, many people said it was impossible. No medieval workers, they argued, could possibly have dug up that much earth by hand. But Joyce had the cores, and the cores didn't lie. Late in her life, at 84, Joyce wrote a poem about the landscape she had spent her life studying. She called it Broadland. And it's the perfect botanical ode to the area that captured her imagination and stunned her fellow citizens. It also happens to host a wide range of flora. Joyce wrote, "Swaying reed and nodding sedge, whispering at the water's edge, a hinterland of tangled marsh with alder carr and sallow bush, purple loosestrife, yellow flags, sturdy rushes, tufted sags, valerian, sweetgrass, meadow rue, scabious, skullcap, orchids too, a treasury on deep, rich peat, tanged by the scent of meadowsweet." It's no surprise that Joyce closed her poem with the stunning meadowsweet, Philippendulia ulmaria, that sports small cream-white blooms, frothy as foam on a reed stalk, and offers a scent that is sweet and almond-soft, like honey dissolving in warm rain. And it grows wherever soil stays reliably damp, like a pond edge, a rain garden, or any low corner where water lingers like the broadland. And yet notice how, when Joyce wrote about that landscape, she did not write about the discovery she had made or the history. She just focused on what was right in front of her at the time. She simply wrote about the plants that she saw and called them each by name. As we close the show today, remember, nobody ever sat on their garden bench in the golden light of a June evening and wished they'd spent less on the plants. The garden just gives, quietly, generously, and without keeping score. Anna Pavard was right. The point was never the money. It was always the life, the fuller, richer, more beautiful life that waits for you every time you walk outside. It's not hoarding if it's plants, and it's not spending if it fills your soul. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.